Okay, so next up we've got Yoomp. This one's a bit of an anomaly because it came out in 2007, which was quite some time after the rest of the Atari games did. I don't believe that's a real loading screen, by the way. I think they just put that there for artistic reasons. But anyway, this was like a fan project that came out some 24 years after the rest of the Atari 800 games. And I guess they were so impressed that they included it with all of the original ones. It's a familiar concept for sure. It's just like that Flash game where you've got a little alien and he's running on the thin green parallelograms and occasionally he has to make a jump. You know that one. Both this game and the one that I'm describing could definitely be considered a mindless, endless runners. I feel like you could mute the audio for this and just put in a recording of like an episode of Come Town and nobody'd even think any different. In fact, let's do that.
Can prick a dill.
He's gonna use a lifeline. He's calling his sister, who's got a retarded son with a giant penis. Hey, Tina? It's Mike. Hey, what's up? We don't have much time here, so I'm going to get through it. A retarded person's penis is A, 13 inches long, B, 15 inches long, C, 2.5 feet long, or D, they don't have penises.
Some poor guy probably worked really hard on this soundtrack and I'm just covering it up with that. Forgive me, Yoomp composer. So anyway, this one's a bit of a curiosity in that, when people on the internet talk about hardware limitations, I don't think they ever really consider that a lot of the limitations of older systems have to do more with design philosophies rather than hardware. Because here we've got an example of modern design philosophy on an old machine, because you might have noticed that a ball bounces in time with the music and such, the beats are synced up, and you wouldn't normally associate something like that with old hardware, but it turns out it was possible. It's just nobody ever thought to do such a thing back then. And naturally, that's just one example of, I'm sure, many others where there was the possibility that old machine X could do this feature. It's just a matter of nobody thought of it, you know? Hardware limitations aren't everything. Am I making any sense right now? I feel like I kind of chewed up that sentence. Kind of like John Madden. You ever hear John Madden just eat a sentence? He's just all like, so this guy's gonna go to the left and then he's gonna grab the ball and get... Rest in peace, John Madden. We haven't looked at any Atari Lynx games yet, so let's do that real quick. There's a surprising number of characters in this game. There's Biff, like from Back to the Future, Butthead. There's Slam, come on and slam. There's Silvio Dante from The Sopranos. There's Buster, he's Arthur's friend from Arthur. Remember that episode of Arthur where they had that character who was supposed to be Art Garfunkel and he was following everybody around with a guitar all day? And that was a good episode. So anyway, pardon the frame rate, but the goal of this one is it's standard basketball, but you can also punch and kick and stab people. Fun for the whole family. Truthfully, I don't know a whole lot about the Atari Lynx. I mean, just by glancing at it, it looks to be more powerful than the original Game Boy. But that's about the full extent of what I know. On the subject of violent basketball, did you guys ever see that video of that Pistons Pacer game back in the 2000s that went horribly wrong and it broke out into a brawl between players and fans, the malice at the palace, as they called it? I'm sure I've talked about that on the channel before. I mean, gosh, it's one of my favorites. I watch it at least 3 times a year. Surely that's come up in the past, but basically the rundown was So it's just a normal game at first, and the announcer says, the Pacers have played a very intelligent game tonight. And then the, what's the name? Not Chauncey Phillips, but one of the players, he pushes the other player, and then he nearly falls over. And then the ref separates them so it doesn't break out into a fight between players. And Ron Artest, who was one of the people who was in the fight, he lays down on his back on a bench in order to calm down. And while he's laying down, a beer bottle from the stands flies over the stands and hits the dude in the face. And so Ron Artest, he fucking charges up into the fan area, into the stands, and starts punching the fans there. And then the other players chase after him up and into the stands, and they're trying to hold him back. And then a couple other players, they're trying to fight with him. So you've got a group of like 4 players and I don't know, like 6 fans, all just like throwing fists at each other and stuff. And then a different fight starts breaking out at a different section of the arena at the same time. And of course the announcers are commentating over all of this as it's happening. And people in the comments of the video have mentioned that at that point they go from being basketball announcers to WWE announcers, just in terms of tone. Just think, because you've got this big stadium with probably like 6,000 people in it, and it's just total chaos and people pushing on each other and trying to escape, and some people are actually physically fighting and there's shit getting thrown and screaming. And basketball used to be so much more entertaining, I can tell you that much. Okay, but enough of that. Now we're going to do the opposite of basketball. So, I was quite impressed by how quickly things move in this one. You don't normally associate this speed of animation with an Atari 2600 game, that's for sure. And it's got a warp drive. This situation definitely warrants looking at the controls. They're really hitting us hard and fast here. But anyway, I don't know how they managed to make things move so damn smooth. This is basically like that game that we played in episode 1, except the camera's behind the ship rather than from a first-person perspective. So yes, the idea of using a warp drive to travel to different squares on a space map and get in space battles was a concept that appeared in not 1 but 2 games. In some respects you could say it's like an allegory for the life of Jesus Christ. He would travel from place to place, setting things right where had once gone wrong, and hoping that the next leap would be the leap home. That's a fucking stupid joke. Anyway, I feel like the space combat was a bit more finessed in the 5200 version. The range of movement was definitely a bit more lenient. I mean, we're not really moving, it's just the environment around us that's moving to create the illusion of movement. Yes, I remember reading in one of my math textbooks in school many years ago, they were explaining the concept of a z-axis in video games, and I think they used Mario 64 as an example because the math textbooks were so old that would have been a brand new thing at the time. Anyway, they were explaining that Mario isn't really moving in the game, he's just moving in place and the world's moving around him. I'm sure that was true in the early days of 3D, but with modern stuff, I don't know if that's necessarily the case anymore, you know?